Catherine Sullivan could save anyone, except the person who needed her most. For 12 years, she was the ICU nurse everyone turned to, the miracle worker who brought people back from the edge of death, the one who never lost a patient when it truly mattered. But while she was busy being everyone's hero at the hospital, her own 16-year-old daughter was dying inside their home, and Kate was too blinded by her savior complex to see the signs. Have you ever been praised for something that was secretly destroying what mattered most to you? This is the story of how being perfect at your job can make you fail at life, and how sometimes the people we're trying to save the most are the ones we're neglecting the most. Kate's turning point didn't come from losing a patient. It came from almost losing her daughter. And what she discovered about herself will change how you think about success, sacrifice, and what it really means to save a life. Because sometimes the most important life you need to save is the one sitting at your own dinner table. Kate Sullivan was a legend at St. Mary's Medical Center. At 38, she had spent 12 years in the ICU, and her reputation was built on one undeniable fact. When Kate was your nurse, you survived. She had an intuition about patients that bordered on supernatural. She could sense when someone was about to crash before the monitors started beeping. She stayed late, came in early, and took on the cases other nurses dreaded. "She's the best we have," Dr. Patterson would tell worried families. "If anyone can pull your loved one through this, it's Kate." And she always did. Her patient survival rate was legendary. Her dedication was unquestioned. Her compassion was endless. But compassion, like everything else, has a cost. At home, 16-year-old Olivia Sullivan was learning to navigate the world without her mother's guidance. Not because Kate didn't care, but because she cared too much about everyone else. Kate's husband, Sean, had become a single parent by default, handling homework, school events, teenage drama, and the slow disillusion of their daughter's mental health while Kate saved other people's families. "Mom missed my recital again," Olivia said one evening, her voice flat with resignation rather than anger. She had stopped being angry months ago. Now she just expected disappointment. "She's saving lives, sweetheart," Sean replied, the same excuse he'd been making for years. But even he was starting to wonder if those lives were worth more than their own family's life together.
Kate's identity was completely wrapped up in being the savior. Every successful code, every patient who walked out of the ICU, every family that thanked her through tears, it fed something deep in her soul that she couldn't get anywhere else. She was addicted to being needed, to being essential, to being the difference between life and death. "I don't know what we would have done without you," grateful families told her constantly. "You're an angel," they said. "You saved my husband's life." And Kate would smile humbly and redirect credit to the team. But inside, she felt the rush. She was special. She was irreplaceable. She was saving the world one patient at a time. What Kate didn't realize was that while she was saving everyone else's world, her own world was quietly falling apart.
Olivia had been struggling emotionally for over a year, but the signs were subtle at first. Sleeping more, eating less, withdrawing from friends. Her grades dropped from A's to C's, but Sean rationalized it as normal teenage stuff. Olivia stopped talking about her day, stopped asking for help with problems, stopped reaching out when she needed support.
"How was school today, sweetheart?" Kate would ask on the rare evenings she made it home for dinner. "Fine," Olivia would mumble, pushing food around her plates. "That's great, baby." "Mom had an incredible day. We saved a man who came in with massive heart failure. The doctor said it was impossible, but we brought him back." And Kate would launch into another story about her heroic day, while Olivia sat there, invisible in her own home, learning that her problems would never be as important as a stranger's medical emergency. The tragic irony was that Kate had dedicated her life to recognizing the signs of people in crisis. She could spot internal bleeding, cardiac distress, and neurological decline from across a room. But she couldn't see that her own daughter was slowly dying inside, one day at a time.
The night that changed everything started like any other. Kate was working a double shift in the ICU, and they had just admitted a teenager who had overdosed on prescription medication. As Kate worked to stabilize the girl, she couldn't help but think about the parents, probably sitting in the waiting room, devastated and blaming themselves. How do parents miss something this big? Kate asked Dr. Patterson as they monitored the girl's vitals. How do you not see that your own child is struggling this much? Dr. Patterson looked at Kate with an expression she couldn't quite read. Sometimes the people closest to us are the hardest to see clearly, especially when we're looking everywhere else, he said quietly. At that exact moment, 2 miles away, Olivia Sullivan was sitting in her bedroom, writing a letter expressing all the pain she had been carrying alone for months. Sean found her 20 minutes later when he went to check on her before bed. Olivia had fainted on her bedroom floor. She'd been so upset and overwhelmed that she'd taken some of her grandmother's old pain medication for a headache, not realizing how strong it was or that she shouldn't mix it with the cold medicine she'd taken earlier. The letter was folded neatly on her desk, beginning, "I've been trying to tell someone I'm struggling, but everyone's too busy saving other people to notice I need help too." Sean's hands shook as he called 911, then immediately called Kate at the hospital. The irony wasn't lost on him. His wife, who saved lives for a living, wasn't there when their daughter needed saving most. "Kate, you need to come home, now. Olivia had an accident with some medication. The ambulance is coming." The phone dropped from Kate's hands as her world shifted on its axis. For 12 years, she had been the one other families called when their worlds were ending. Now she was the family in crisis, and she had no idea how to be on this side of the emergency. The next few hours were a blur of paramedics, emergency rooms, and the desperate irony of Kate being in a hospital but completely powerless. Her colleagues worked on her daughter while she sat in the waiting room like any other terrified parent, finally understanding what all those families she had comforted over the years had felt. But the real devastation came when Olivia stabilized and could finally talk. Through tears and exhaustion, Olivia looked at her mother and said, "I tried to tell you I wasn't okay so many times, but you were always saving someone else. I guess I wasn't worth your attention." Those words hit Kate like physical blows. Every missed dinner, every interrupted conversation, every time she had chosen a patient's needs over her daughter's needs came flooding back in agonizing detail. She had been so busy being everyone's hero that she had failed to be a mother to the person who needed her most. In the days following Olivia's crisis, Kate was forced to confront a truth that shattered her identity completely. She had built her entire sense of self around being the person who saved lives, but she had nearly lost the most important life in her world because of that very identity. "I don't understand," she told the family therapist during their first session. "I dedicate my life to helping people. I work 60-hour weeks. I've saved hundreds of lives." "But whose life have you been avoiding?" the therapist asked gently. When someone is constantly focused outward, constantly saving others, it's often because they don't want to look at what needs saving closer to home, sometimes including themselves. Kate sat in stunned silence, realizing that her heroic identity had been a way of avoiding the messy, complicated work of being present for her own family. It was easier to be a hero to strangers than to face her daughter's struggles, her marriage's problems, and her own need to be needed. For the first time in 12 years, Kate took extended leave from the hospital. The decision felt like losing a limb. Her identity, her purpose, her entire sense of self was tied to that ICU. Without her scrubs, without the beeping monitors, without the constant stream of grateful families, who was she? "I don't know how to just be a mom," Kate admitted to Sean one evening as they sat by Olivia's bedside during another therapy session. "At work, I know exactly what to do. Someone codes, I save them. Someone's in pain, I comfort them. Someone's family is scared, I reassure them. But with Olivia,
I don't know what she needs from me. Sean looked at his wife with a mixture of love and frustration. She needs you to see her, not as a problem to solve, but as a person to know. She needs you to be curious about her life instead of distracted by everyone else's. The truth was devastating in its simplicity. Kate had treated her daughter like a stable patient, someone who would always be fine, who didn't need constant monitoring, who could be safely ignored while she focused on the critical cases. But every person, no matter how stable they seem, needs to know they matter to someone. During one particularly difficult therapy session, Olivia finally expressed the anger she had been holding inside for years. Do you know what it's like to have a mom who everyone thinks is amazing, but who doesn't even know what grade I'm in? You know every detail about your patients' lives, but you don't know I switched from AP biology to regular bio 3 months ago because I was having trouble concentrating. You don't know I stopped hanging out with Jessica because she was pressuring me to drink. You don't know I've been having nightmares because I see how devastated you get when you lose a patient, and I figured if something happened to me, maybe you'd finally notice I existed. Each revelation was like a knife to Kate's heart. Her daughter had been living through adolescent struggles alone, making important decisions without guidance, and slowly withdrawing while Kate was at the hospital being everyone else's emotional support. I thought if I was just good enough, just quiet enough, just independent enough, maybe you'd notice me. But then I realized that the sicker your patients are, the more attention you get from you. So maybe if I got desperate enough. The room fell silent as the full weight of Olivia's logic hit everyone. Kate's pattern of responding to crisis rather than preventing it had taught her own daughter that the only way to get her mother's attention was through a medical emergency.
That night, Kate sat alone in Olivia's bedroom, looking at all the signs she had missed. The artwork on the walls had grown darker over the months. The books on Olivia's shelf were about characters struggling with feeling invisible and worthless. There were journals filled with writing about feeling unheard and abandoned. Every sign was there, written in plain sight, but Kate had been too busy saving other people to read her own daughter's cries for help. She picked up one of Olivia's journals and read an entry from 6 months ago. Mom saved another life today. She was so excited to tell us about it at dinner. I wanted to tell her that I felt like disappearing today, but she was glowing talking about her patient, and I didn't want to ruin her happiness. Sometimes I think she loves strangers more than she loves me. Kate wept as she realized the full scope of her failure. She had taught her daughter that other people's pain was more important than her pain, that other people's needs were more urgent than her needs, that other people's lives were more valuable than her life. The path to healing began with Kate doing something she had never done before. She stopped trying to fix everything and started simply being present. Instead of rushing to solve Olivia's problems or minimize her pain, Kate learned to sit with her daughter's emotions without trying to change them. "I don't need you to make me feel better," Olivia told her during one of their daily talks, a new ritual Kate had committed to. "I just need you to believe me when I tell you how I feel." This was revolutionary for Kate, whose entire identity was built around making people feel better, around being the solution to everyone's problems. Learning to witness her daughter's pain without immediately trying to fix it required her to develop entirely new emotional muscles. As Kate stepped back from her role as the hospital's miracle worker, she began to discover parts of herself that had been dormant for years. She remembered that she used to love gardening before nursing school consumed her life. She rediscovered her joy in cooking, not quick meals between shifts, but actual cooking where she paid attention to flavors and presentation. Most importantly, she began to develop curiosity about her own family's inner lives. She asked Olivia about her dreams, her fears, her opinions on everything from music to politics to her plans for the future. And she listened, really listened, without planning her response or looking for problems to solve. "Tell me about your friends," Kate said one afternoon, as they worked together in the garden she had started in their backyard. "Why?" Olivia asked, suspiciously.
still cautious after years of superficial interactions. Because I want to know about the people who are important to you. I want to understand your world the way I understand my patients' medical histories. It was a small moment, but it represented a seismic shift in Kate's approach to motherhood. Instead of treating her daughter like a stable patient who didn't need attention, she began treating her like a complex, interesting person whose thoughts and feelings mattered. The breakthrough came 3 months into Kate's leave of absence. Olivia had a difficult day at school, and instead of dealing with it alone or asking Sean to handle it, she called Kate. "Mom, I'm having a really hard time today. Everything feels overwhelming. I know you're probably busy, but I'm coming right now," Kate interrupted, already grabbing her keys. "Stay on the phone with me. You're going to be okay. I'm choosing you." Those 3 words, "I'm choosing you," became the foundation of their rebuilt relationship. For the first time in years, Olivia felt like she was her mother's priority, not just another item on an endless to-do list. When Kate arrived at the school, she didn't immediately launch into problem-solving mode. Instead, she held her daughter and said, "Tell me what this feels like. Help me understand what you're going through." Olivia's distress subsided not because Kate fixed it, but because she felt seen and prioritized by the person whose opinion mattered most to her.
When Kate finally returned to work, she was a different nurse entirely. She was still skilled, still compassionate, still dedicated to her patients' well-being. But she had learned to set boundaries that protected her ability to be present for her own family. "I can't work a double shift tonight," she told her supervisor when asked to cover for a colleague. "My daughter has a school presentation, and I promised I'd be there." The old Kate would have felt guilty about this choice, would have worried that her absence might somehow contribute to a patient's decline. The new Kate understood that modeling healthy boundaries for her daughter was just as important as any medical intervention she could provide. But the most profound change was in how Kate approached her role as a healer. Instead of seeing herself as the savior who fixed everyone's problems, she began to see herself as a supporter who helped people and families navigate their own healing journeys. She started recognizing the family dynamics that she had been blind to before, the parents who were so focused on their sick child that they were neglecting their healthy children, the spouses who were drowning in caregiver fatigue, the siblings who felt invisible next to the crisis in their family. "I see your son is doing well," Kate said to a mother whose teenager had just been moved out of critical condition. "How is your daughter handling all of this?" Sometimes siblings struggle when all the attention has to go to the sick child. The mother's eyes filled with tears. "Nobody has asked me about her. She's been so angry and acting out, but I haven't had time to deal with it. What if we brought her in for a visit?" Sometimes seeing that their sibling is okay helps kids process their own feelings about the situation. Kate had discovered that true healing involved the whole family system, not just the individual patient. Her own experience had taught her to look beyond the obvious crisis to the hidden casualties. 6 months after Olivia's crisis, the Sullivan family was having dinner together, a ritual that Kate now protected fiercely. Olivia was sharing a story about her day, and Kate found herself genuinely interested in the details of teenage social dynamics that she would have previously dismissed as trivial. "Tell me more about what happened with your friend group," Kate said, putting down her phone and giving Olivia her full attention. "Really?" Olivia asked, still sometimes surprised by her mother's genuine interest. "Really, I want to understand how your world works." Sean watched this interaction with amazement. The woman who had once dominated dinner conversations with hospital stories was now asking follow-up questions about her daughter's life and actually waiting for the answers. Kate's transformation rippled outward in unexpected ways. She began leading support groups for healthcare workers struggling with work-life balance. She spoke at nursing conferences about the hidden costs of the savior complex. She helped other medical professionals recognize the signs of family neglect that she had missed in her own life. "I thought being a good nurse meant sacrificing everything for my patients," Kate told a room full of her peers. "But I learned that if you're not healthy at home, you can't truly heal others at work."
When we model unhealthy boundaries for our own families, we're teaching them that some people's pain matters more than others. Her message resonated because it came from lived experience, not textbook theory. She could speak to the specific ways that medical professionals justify neglecting their own families in service of their patients. But the most important change was in Olivia herself. With her mother's consistent presence and attention, Olivia began to thrive. Her grades improved, her friendships deepened, and most importantly, she learned to communicate her needs instead of suffering in silence. "Mom, I'm feeling anxious about the SATs," Olivia said one evening, something she never would have shared during their old dynamic. "Tell me what's worrying you most," Kate replied, giving her daughter the same focused attention she once reserved only for coding patients. Olivia had learned that she was worth her mother's time, that her problems mattered, that she didn't have to be in crisis to deserve attention and support. A year later, Kate watched Olivia give a speech at her high school graduation. As class vice president, Olivia spoke about resilience, about the importance of asking for help, and about how sometimes the strongest people are those who admit they need support. "I learned that being invisible isn't the same as being strong. And I learned that the people who love you want to help you, but they can't help if you don't let them see you." Kate sat in the audience, tears streaming down her face, knowing that her daughter had learned lessons that she herself had taken 40 years to understand. The girl who had once felt so unseen that she had to create a crisis to get attention was now standing in front of hundreds of people, sharing her story and encouraging others to reach out when they were struggling. Thank you for joining me for another story here on The Turning Point. Kate's journey reminds us that being good at saving others doesn't automatically make us good at caring for the people closest to us. Your greatest professional strengths can become your greatest personal blind spots. Sometimes the very thing that makes you exceptional at work can make you absent at home. What are you so focused on saving outside your home that you might be missing inside it? Are you so busy being everyone's hero that you're failing to be present for the people who need you most? Maybe you're Kate, addicted to being needed by everyone except your own family. Or maybe you're Olivia, trying to get attention from someone who's always looking somewhere else. But here's what I want you to consider. What if the most important life you could save isn't in your workplace, your community, or your cause, but sitting at your own dinner table? What if true success isn't measured by how many people you help, but how present you are for the people who love you most? If Kate's story moved you, I'd love to hear about a time when your professional dedication came at the cost of personal relationships. Or maybe you're still learning to balance being needed by the world with being present for your family. Leave a comment below and share your story. Your turning point might be exactly what another overwhelmed caregiver needs to hear today. And if you're ready for another powerful transformation story about finding balance between serving others and caring for yourself, check out our next video. We drop a new story every week that proves your greatest strength can become your greatest weakness until you learn to use it wisely. Don't forget to like this video if Kate's journey resonated with something deep inside you, and subscribe for more stories where professional success meets personal reckoning. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a turning point that could save the relationships that matter most. Sometimes the life you need to save most urgently is the one you see in the mirror or across your own dinner table. I'll see you in the next video.